Hello YouTube viewers, hope you're all doing good. Right, welcome to this video, and this is the Learn Kubernetes series, and what you're going to be learning in this video is how to set up a single node Kubernetes cluster. You might have heard about Minikube. Minikube is just, I'll do a video on Minikube later, but I thought I'll do this one called microk8s. If you don't know, K8s is short for Kubernetes. I don't know why they call K8s. But anyway, so in this video, we're going to set up a single node cluster on a Ubuntu machine using microk8s. I did a video on how to set up a cluster using Kube using Vagrant. That is a proper cluster, so a master node with two or more worker nodes. So this one, microk8s and Minikube, they're going to give you a single node cluster. So if you want to test something like auto scaling, deploying pods on multiple nodes, you won't be able to. This is just for learning Kubernetes. This is just for a quick development, quick testing, and so on. So this is going to give you just one node, so bear that in mind. Right. When you compare Minikube with microk8s, Minikube, you need to have VirtualBox installed. I think it's just VirtualBox. I'm not sure if you can install VMware or anything else. But what it basically does is, if you install Minikube, it's gonna provision the virtual machine for you. Whereas microk8s, it's going to set up the cluster on the machine you're running microk8s, and it's very lightweight when compared to Minikube. You're not going to run an extra virtual machine. It's going to run on the same. The cluster will be on the same host machine, and the installation is quite simple. It takes less than a minute as compared to Minikube or Kube installation. Okay, let's dive straight in. I'm going to cd to my play directory, and my host machine is Arch Linux based Manjaro, but I'm going to show this how to install on Ubuntu. So I'm going to create an Ubuntu virtual machine. I've got a Vagrant file in my GitHub repository, so let me clone that first. Git clone. That's my GitHub URL, github.com, just me and open source Vagrant. cd to Vagrant, cd to Vagrant files, cd to Ubuntu 18. That's my Vagrant file. If you take a look at it, basically I'm creating one VM at the moment, but this just template. If you want more VMs, you can increase the node count. The name will be Ubuntu VM 1, 2, depending on how many VMs you want to provision. And I've added a private IP so that I can connect to this machine from my host machine. And I've given it 2 gigs. So if you want to follow this video, there's a warning. If you want to follow this video, make sure your machine has got at least 2 gig of RAM. If you don't, you're gonna get problems when you're starting a pod or something. So I'll show you at the end of this video. I'll change this to 1 gig and provision another virtual machine with 1 gig and show you what error you might be seeing. So to start with, just make sure you've got like 2 gig of RAM. Number of CPUs doesn't matter. Okay, so if you've got an Ubuntu machine already in your place, so don't worry about following all these steps. You can skip ahead. Vagrant up. Right, I've already downloaded the base box, so it's not going to take longer. I think it takes about like 30 seconds. Right, the machine is ready. I'll also go to the directory. No, it's not Vagrant, it's Vagrant files Ubuntu. Right, if I log into the machine, Vagrant SSH, I'll also do that on the bottom pane, Vagrant SSH. You can see I've got 2 gig of memory here. I'm running Ubuntu 18.04. Right, how do you install microk8s? It's provided by the Snap package manager for Ubuntu, and you can also install Snap for various other Linux distributions, but I'm gonna give it a try on CentOS 7, and if it works I'll do a video on it, but for now I'm gonna test this on Ubuntu. So make sure you've got Snap installed. Sudo apt-get install snapd. So snapd is already installed if you're using Ubuntu 18. By the way, you can follow this step on Ubuntu 16 as well. So sudo snap install microk8s --classic. Don't forget that --classic option, otherwise you will get error. Let me show you what error you get. I don't know what this means, but go with --classic. That's what the official documentation says. So that's going to download some files and it's going to install the service. Just see how long it takes. It should be less than a minute. It also depends on the speed of your internet connection. That's the only thing. And by the way, make sure you don't have Docker installed on your machine. If you have got Docker installed, this microk8s service is going to start Docker, and it's going to conflict with it. So make sure you don't install Docker. If you have got Docker installed already, remove it or stop the service. I don't think stopping the service would be useful. I think you need to remove the Docker package completely. It's going to complete in a minute. Right, that's installed. If I do sudo snap list microk8s, so you've got that installed. So the cluster is up and running. It's installed for you. Let's check. So normally we use kubectl cluster info. It's going to compile kubectl command not found. Yep. So as you've installed microk8s, the kubectl command is provided by microk8s.kubectl. Cluster info. So that's our cluster. Kubectl version --short. So we've got version 1.12.2. So whenever you install microk8s, it's gonna pull whatever the latest version is. Right, what I'm going to do is, instead of doing microk8s.kubectl all the time, I'm going to create an alias kubectl equals microk8s.kubectl. Right, kubectl get nodes. So I've got one node, as I told you, and that's the node, the virtual machine that I created. If I do -o void, you can see Ubuntu 18.04 and it's running Docker version. By the way, if I do dpkg -l and search whether Docker is installed, no packages found matching Docker. grep for Docker. It's not installed. Then how the Kubernetes cluster is going to deploy pods if we don't have Docker installed? But microservice microk8s doesn't install Docker, but it packages, it provides Docker. For example, if you do ps-ef grep for Docker, so that's the kubelet process running. Here you go. That's the Docker D 2451. That's the Docker container engine running. So don't worry if you don't see Docker package installed and wondering how Kubernetes is working. Right, that's the installation. Cluster is up. What you could do is I'll quickly show you a quick demo of Nginx kubectl. That's always easy. That's the first thing that comes to my mind when doing a quick demo or example. Kubectl run nginx. But before that, let me do that on the bottom pane, but on the top pane, let's watch what's happening. kubectl get namespaces. We've got that. kubectl get all in all namespaces. Let's look what's already in there. -o wide. So all you have got in all the namespaces is just the default Kubernetes service. Right? Watch kubectl get all -o wide. kubectl command not found. Right, the alias didn't work inside the watch as it is using a subshell, so let's use the full version. Right, okay, on the bottom pane I'm gonna try creating an nginx deployment. kubectl run nginx --image nginx. I need to set the alias here as well. kubectl microk8s dot kubectl. kubectl run nginx --image nginx. That's created, and you can see nginx is running, deployment created, replica set created, nginx the container is running, and which Docker? You won't have Docker because microk8s provides its Docker. microk8s Docker images, so it has pulled the nginx image and the image is running here. So microk8s. And if you're wondering what other commands you've got, microk8s and press tab to see. And enable, disable, I'll come to that in a minute. Inspect, you can inspect it. Reset, I'll show you how reset works. Basically, it just resets everything and gives you a clean cluster. Okay, let's run inspect. Inspect. That just tells you what's the status of the services. So now if I do microk8s dot reset, it's going to delete all the deployments. It basically shuts your cluster down and then gives you a brand new clean cluster, which I don't want to do now at least. Okay, so let's try to increase the replica. kubectl scale deploy nginx replicas equals 2. That's scaled, and you're going to get another one running. And as this is a single node cluster, you will see everything is running on Ubuntu VM01. Okay, so far fine. kubectl, let's expose the nginx and create a service. kubectl expose deploy nginx. I'm gonna expose port 80 and the target port as 80. Type will be cluster IP. I think that's enough. Deployment extension type. No. I see. Okay, but anyway, it has created the cluster IP. Maybe that's the default one. I missed the minus before type. So anyway, that gave the error, but it's still completed creating the service. And the default is cluster IP. Let's see if we can access it. Have I got elinks installed? Nope. apt-get update apt-get install -y elinks. And once it's installed, let's see if we can reach this IP address, cluster IP. We should be able to reach it because we are on this host. I missed sudo. apt-get install -y elinks. elinks is installed. elinks and the IP. Cool. and that's the Nginx welcome page. It's running, and I wanted to show you how to reset, right? You could delete kubectl, delete deploy Nginx, and delete service Nginx to clean it, or you can do microk8s dot reset. You can watch what's happening above. So basically it's container terminating, and the default Kubernetes service was also disappeared for a while, and it created a new one, and the pods are going away. Cleaning resources in namespace cube. Okay, so that's basically what the reset does. It gives you, but when you're learning and when you're doing some development, this will come very handy. So whenever you do, you don't have to run multiple commands to clean up your cluster. Just reset it every time you want to. It's like VM snapshotting. When you do something and you want to make sure that you start from scratch without any errors, you do a snapshot, restore to that snapshot. So it's similar to that. You reset the entire cluster. Okay, and I want to show one final thing. Microk8s dot enable and disable. Let's enable. You can enable different services. For example, you can enable dashboard service. I'll do that on the bottom pane. Microk8s dot enable dashboard. Basically, what it's going to do is it's going to, if you have followed one of my videos in this series, I showed you how to install the web UI, the Kubernetes dashboard, manually. So you use InfluxDB, Heapster to collect the metrics from the pods, containers, nodes, and so on, and the metrics are all stored in the InfluxDB storage engine. You can use Grafana to visualize the graphs. That's what we did in one of our videos. Now that's going to do this one. Microk8s.enable dashboard is going to install all that for us. Watch microk8s.kubectl get pods all namespaces. Right, so it has created the InfluxDB dashboard and Heapster, and it has created all these resources: secret, service account, deployment, config maps, everything. Okay, and right, I'm going to delete this VM now, and I think that's it for this video. But if you've got time, I wanted to show you what error you would get when you run this on a machine with less than 2 gig. Alright, let's destroy it. Vagrant Destroy -f. So I'm deleting the current virtual machine. That's done. I'm gonna edit the Vagrant file and change the memory allocation from 2 gig to 1 gig, which is 1024, and do Vagrant up. Right, the machine is up. Let me log into that machine. As you can see, it has got 1 gig of memory. Let's install the microk8s. -- classic. Let's wait for it to complete. I think it tries to download about 150 meg worth of content. Let's wait for it to complete, and then we'll try creating the Nginx pod, Nginx deployment, and see what happens. Right, it's installed microk8s.kubectl. Well, let's create alias kubectl equals microk8s.kubectl. Okay, now kubectl cluster info. The service installs fine, no problem at all, but it's a problem when it comes to starting the pod. I don't know why it takes longer now. Okay, kubectl get nodes. You've got one node, Ubuntu VMO1, that's your host machine. Now, Vagrant SSH. Watch microk8s.kubectl get all. Okay, so let's try and deploy Nginx. Kubectl run Nginx --image Nginx. Let's run it, and you can see it's in the pending state. And if you wait for it to come online, and if you wait for it to change the running state, you would wait there forever because it's never gonna complete. Because that's what I did when I did a test before doing this video. I was waiting for like 1 minute, and then I found no, something is not quite right. So I ended up digging what it's actually doing. Okay, kubectl describe. This is what you get when you run when you try to install microk8s on a machine with less than 2 gig of RAM. The service will install fine, you wouldn't have any problem, but you end up like this. Kubectl describe pod. I haven't got tab completion enabled, so let me copy paste the pod name, pipe that to less. So what I wanted to see is why it's in the pending state. Reason, okay, warning, failed scheduling. That's because 0 of 1 nodes are available. So it basically says there's one node available, but you can't schedule to that node because it has a taint associated with it that the pod didn't tolerate. So a taint is something that you can add to a node to make sure that the pod, if you want to target that particular node, you have to add tolerations to the pod. Maybe I will show you a demo in a separate video, which will then make sense to you. But now in this case, just understand why it's not running. It's not running because the node, we've got only one node, and the node has got a taint attached to it. That's preventing the pod from scheduling onto this node. Let's look at it. Kubectl describe node Ubuntu VMO1 less. If you look at that one, out of disk, disk pressure, internal IP, don't worry about it. If you go all the way to the top, you can see taint. That's the one. So what you can do is grep for taint. So the node Ubuntu VMO1 has got this taint, memory pressure, no schedule. So there is a memory pressure. If there is a memory pressure, then do not schedule any pod on this node. Let's see if there is a memory pressure. So you can see out of disk. Is it out of disk? It's just a way of checking the health of the node. Out of disk, false. So it's not out of disk. Kube has sufficient disk reason. Disk pressure, if it has got enough space. Kubelet has no disk pressure. PID pressure, if it has got enough PIDs can be allocated. Yes, has sufficient PID, no problem. And if you look at memory pressure, true. It says Kubelet has insufficient memory. Kubelet has insufficient memory available. So whenever it has this memory pressure, uh, no pods will get scheduled onto this node unless you uh, preempt preempt is like um, when a job is running, and if you want to preempt the job, which means you are going to terminate the job before it completes so that other jobs with higher priority can get in. So that's preemption. So if you preempt a pod, because we haven't got any pod, we haven't got any option other than to increase the memory. So that's the error you would normally see if you run it with lower memory. I think that's it, and this is very interesting one because every time I set up a Kubernetes cluster the usual way, you have to install 3 virtual machines, initialize the cluster, and so on. It takes a lot of time. But if you're in a hurry and if you're doing, say for example, if you're learning kubectl commands, you don't need a cluster with multiple nodes. It's just a single node, and it's very quick. As you saw earlier, it only took like less than 60 seconds, less than a minute to get your cluster up and running. It's also not hard on your resources, so you could make use of it. Right, I think that's all I've got in my notes, and hopefully you learned something new in this video, and if you like this video, please share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, so you get constant updates of newer videos, upcoming videos. If you've got any problems, issues, or if something is not working right the way I explained here, ask me a question in the comment, then I should be able to respond to you. I think that's it, and have a great day. I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.